Hey, hi, hello. I'm gonna ask you really politely just to ignore Bill Cipher. He's probably gonna be in the background of most of my videos now because this is where he lives. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a weird attempt at trying to get out of a reading slump. I've been in a reading slump for a while now. I think it has to do a lot with my general life just kind of taking over. I just feel like I don't gravitate towards reading right now. I'm just so overwhelmed with so many things. So I'm gonna be trying Goodreads Recommends to pick my next book to see if it helps me get out of this reading slump. It might not, but it might. I've been spending some time thinking about some books that I really loved that had vibes similar to what I'm kind of in the mood to read right now. And we're gonna start with one, and if that first one succeeds, you're not gonna know the rest of them, but we might have to go through a few of them if Goodreads Recommends doesn't work for me. Editing Amanda here. I'm really sorry, guys. It was about 8 minutes of me going through Goodreads and it was really good and really funny. My screen recording didn't save, so I feel like watching it without the other side of what I'm looking at doesn't make sense because I didn't say everything out loud because I thought you'd be able to see my screen. I've been having this issue a lot recently, so if any of you have any tips or tricks for how to make sure that my screen recording is actually doing what it says it's doing, I'd love to hear them. I Googled it. A lot of people have the same issue as me. So I'm just gonna cut you to when I finally pick which book I'm going to be reading, but I did pick this book based on Firekeeper's daughter. Where Dreams Descend feels like a really weird book to compare to Firekeeper's daughter. In a city covered in ice and ruin, a group of magicians face off in a daring game of magical feats to find the next headliner for the conquering circus, only to find themselves under the threat of an unseen danger striking behind the scenes. That sounds really good to me actually right now. This sounds like the Night Circus, which I freaking hated, but I'd be willing to give this one a shot, I think. YA, fantasy, romance, magic, mystery, retelling. What are you retelling? This sounds like it's gonna be some type of competition between a bunch of magicians. Things are gonna go wrong. There might be some murder mystery kind of a thing. It's a pretty short book, to be honest. How long is it? It's 15 hours, so I should be able to get through it this weekend and I'll vlog my experience of reading it. Let's go. Okay, so I just finished Act 1, so I figured I'd come in and update you as to what's going on. I'm 12% through the book, and honestly, I don't know what's going on. There's two POVs that we're following. Mainly we're following one, this girl who seems to kind of be trapped in this cottage in the woods. There's all these servants and people who take care of her, but she's training with this man to become the best magician. And I think she sometimes dances, or maybe that's a different girl. I haven't figured that part out yet. There's this club that we were first introduced to, and there's this girl who dances in it every night, and she's a magician too, and I'm not sure if they're the same girl or not, to be 1000% honest. And then we're also following this guy who I think is the guy who is trapping her. I'm lost, my dudes. I have no clue what's going on in this story. I thought I had a grasp on it, and then the last 2 chapters I was like, wait, what? Our main girl just ran away and she made it to a new city, the City of Cards. What did they call it at the beginning? Did they call it an epitaph? The epigraph at the beginning, an epitaph is what you put on a tombstone. God. The epigraph at the beginning was beautiful. 5 out of 5 stars. It was so good. And then there was this chapter at the beginning. What did they call it? They called it Never Come to Hellfire House Without Wearing a Mask. It was also very good. Very, very good. And then the rest of it's been just kind of mediocre YA. It's nothing fabulous. It's nothing grand. It's kind of what I wanted. It's a step down from what I wanted. I wanted something a little bit better than this, to be honest. But I'm not complaining so far. I'm just lost. So I'm gonna go for a walk and I'm gonna listen to my audiobook, and hopefully later tonight I'll be able to tell you something more about it. It's the next morning and I just got back from my early morning walk, and I'm officially at 32% through this book. Guys, the competition hasn't started yet. I think it's gonna start in the next 2 chapters, but I'm 32% through this book and the main part of the book hasn't started. I'm For me, it feels like the stakes aren't really that high and my intrigue is really low. Like, there's this competition that's supposed to be happening and everyone had to sign this contract in order to like be in the competition. And that's the only stake that I'm like really feeling in this story. Yeah, our main character is like avoiding mirrors and stuff, and she's trying not to get found by the old guy that used to like keep her prisoner, but because we don't know what he's doing and because we had so little time with him, I don't know what like his abilities are or why he would be chasing her or why he held her captive. So I don't know why he'd be wanting her back. I also think that I just don't like our main character. She's supposed to be this like smarky, smart, thinks through everything, plans ahead kind of person, but she comes across as just arrogant to me because she was trapped in this like house all of her life and now she's let loose in this city and she automatically assumes she's better than everyone there and she automatically assumes that she knows how everything works. And I just feel like I'm fine with her being smart and snarky and all of that stuff, but it just doesn't come across that way. Like when I'm reading it, to me, it feels like she's just being arrogant because she doesn't actually know how the city works. She doesn't actually know what's going on. And I'm tired of her. I'm so tired of her. I've also started to realize that I don't think I like books about circuses. I love circuses when they're ethically done. I think they're so much fun. I always thought I enjoyed circus media. I love The Greatest Showman, so maybe it's just like I can't stand circus books, and maybe it's just particular ones because the ones I can really kind of think of is like The Night Circus, which I didn't like, Caraval, which I didn't like, and now there's this one, which I'm really not liking. So maybe this wasn't the best book to try to get out of a reading slump, but I'm at least able to keep going with it, and I don't think I'm going to be rating it high at all, and I'm pretty sure I'm still going to be slumping after this, but it's worth a shot. I have 10 hours left in the audiobook. I'm listening at ×2 speed, so I don't know if I'll finish today because slumping Amanda, that's way too much for her to accomplish, but non-slumping Amanda, that's like the sweet spot. Cool. So it's later that night. As you can see, I've been doing stuff all day. I have many stains on this shirt now. I officially made it to Act 3 just now, which is 60% through the book, which means that out of what I had left starting this morning, I've done half of it. So I'm not going to finish this book tonight. I have just under 6 hours left, which will be about 3 hours, but that does mean that I've done about 3 hours of listening today, which isn't bad. Which isn't bad at all. If I could DNF this book right now, I would. In fact, I would have DNF'd it a while ago if I could have. I very much don't care about this book. But I don't know if that lack of care, that lack of interest is me, or if it's reading slump, or if it's the book, or if it's any combination of the three. I'm not enjoying it, and I don't care about anything that's happening. Honest to God, I feel like the next 3 hours I'm not even gonna like really focus on, and at that point it's like, why am I even finishing this book? Which is why I might DNF it. Okay, I'm kind of talking myself into DNFing. I don't want to DNF it because the whole point of this video was to read a book from beginning to end in one weekend to try to get myself out of a reading slump. So I have the rest of this evening. It's only about 8:30 right now, so I mean, it's almost my bedtime, let's be real. But I gotta shower, get ready for bed, chill out. But I think I might try picking up one of the books off of my ridiculous stack of books that I hope to accomplish this month that I haven't accomplished this month because I haven't been reading it all this month. And I might give some physical reading a shot for a little bit because I haven't done physical reading in so long because of this slump. Maybe this book isn't what I want to listen to, but it might actually be getting me out of my slump because it's making me want to read something that I will really enjoy. So no, I'm not enjoying this book. No, this book isn't my solution, but forcing myself to sit and read for 3 hours today might have like jump-started some small part of my brain that wants to read and is trying to get me back into the habit of reading. We'll see what happens. I still have a lot of hours left in this evening where I could sit on TikTok or play my Switch or paint or do anything but read. It's the next morning and I've just gotten back from my morning walk. It's hot up here, hold up. I've just gotten back from my morning walk and I finished the book. I managed to listen to some more last night and then I just finished it up this morning. This one was a bust for me, guys. I do do fully think that I wouldn't have enjoyed this book even if I wasn't in a reading slump, but I think I might have enjoyed it like slightly more than I did now. So I ended up rating it a 2-star, and I think that if I had not been in a reading slump, I would have rated it like a 2.5. So there's not much of a difference, to be completely honest. I do feel more like reading now that I've done this. There's a few books that are kind of calling to me on my shelf. Last night I ended up doing some other things instead of physically reading, unfortunately, but I think I'm gonna try to sit down today 30 minutes, not even like a crazy amount, and just sit and read. And if I can make it through that, like no pressure to read anything else, and just see if I can do that. This book wasn't a win for me, but I do think a lot of people would enjoy it, at least. I haven't watched anyone else's reviews, so I don't really know if anyone kind of agrees with me on my assessment of the main character, but I do kind of think she was the biggest issue I had with the book, and the main reason why I wasn't like getting really into it. But I also noticed something else about myself that I do think is personal preference when it comes to this type of book, which is the magic system really wasn't defined. It was kind of loose and allowed to just like be mysterious, and I think that I definitely prefer when magic systems are a little bit more explained. I hate saying that because one of my favorite books of all time is The Starless Sea, and you get no explanation at all for that kind of book. But I think that kind of book has like, the writing matches its level of like lyricalness, whereas this book, the writing wasn't super lyrical, so it didn't match kind of the unknown element of the magic. So I think I'll have to put that kind of addendum at the end of that phrase where it's like, I prefer my magic systems to be well defined unless the writing is super lyrical as well. I've also noticed something about myself over the past year, which I really need to like look into and see if this is something that I'm making up or if it's something that's actually true about me. And that is, I think that I prefer YA fantasy when I read it physically to when I read it with an audiobook. I've been doing some thinking about this for a while, so I kind of have some answers as to why I think that's the case. The biggest one being, I think that YA fantasy narrators make main characters sound whiny, and then I don't like the book. But when I'm reading it with my own internal voice, I can make them sound however I want to, therefore I don't get annoyed with them as easily. Love YA fantasy. It's probably my biggest genre that I read. I do think that I generally prefer adult fantasy to YA fantasy, but YA fantasy is so accessible, so much more diverse than adult fantasy. You can really read some different types of authors that way, but also the characters are going to be diverse. But the problem is that they're easily digestible through audio. I can sit down, knock them out in 2 days, and that's it. Whereas if I read it physically, it's going to take me at least 4 to 5 days to read, and that slows me down. Wow, 4 days, that slows me down. So that just goes back to what I've been saying all year to myself, which is I just need to slow down and be okay with that, which I think this month is really trying to teach me that. I don't think I'm out of my slump, but I definitely feel like I can see the end of it in the distance. Let me know down below if you have any tips or tricks for getting out of reading slumps. I've looked at a few online, and most of them are just like, read a really fast-paced book, which maybe I'll try next. If I'm still in a reading slump by the end of this weekend, no, that's like later today. If I'm still in a reading slump in a few days, I think I have a few ideas for a few other things that could get me out of a reading slump, and I might try one of them with you, and you'll be seeing that video shortly on my channel if I decide to do it. Let me know any tips let me know any tips or tricks you have to get out of a reading slump, and I might try one of them for a video. And if your tip and trick is just to like chill out, stop reading, just let yourself be, I've tried that. I've been doing that for about 3 weeks now. In the past 3 weeks, minus Where Dreams Descend, I've read 2 books, and one of them was a novella. So I've tried it, my dudes. I've tried to stop reading. It's not working for me, and I'd like to try to force myself out of it instead. Thank you for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. Let me know if you liked this video by giving it a like, and until next time, I don't remember how my outro goes, but I'll talk to you in the comments. Bye.